Hi and welcome to my soul tribe. My name is Miriam Rose. Today I would like to tell you a little story about how I was switched at birth. It's an interesting story. So I would love for you to please like, subscribe to my channel, ring the bell below and set it on all. Comment in the commentary section. I love to hear your own personal stories. Share my videos. Join me on Instagram as well as Twitter for regular updates. Well, on Instagram for regular updates and on Twitter so that we can continue the conversation going. I can't do it on my own because I don't have any subscribers on Twitter and I'd love to keep the conversation flowing with my subscribers. So, long ago, when I was born, my mother was in labor with me for 1 week. Yes, you've heard it, for 7 days. Back in the day of pre-dinosaurs, I was born in January, 24th of January, 19, blah, 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 pre-dinosaur era. Can I just digress and tell you that I'm so proud of myself because I'm just starting out on YouTube in my old age, whereas people have already quit YouTube long before they reached my age, and I'm just so happy to do what I enjoy doing. I love YouTube. I might not be perfect at it, and surely I'm not. I'm still a newbie, but I'm doing my best and I'm learning as I'm going along. I've done my studies. I've done so much education in my life. I have worked in so many different areas, from hairdressing to beauty to counseling to admin to, when I was 15, I used to work at the market selling clothes for pocket money, and on Saturdays and Sundays I'm going to school during the week. I worked at cafes. I've studied a lot. Now I'm full-time in, finally settled, again I'm digressing, finally settled into my calling in life, which is healing, spirituality and healing. So that's my calling in life. And I guess you kind of wander around seeking and searching until you reach a point in your life where you have finally arrived. And I have finally arrived. It took me a while, in the interim, I used to be a preschool teacher as well. In the interim, I raised 3 children on my own without any help. My ex-husband was hardly ever at home when we were married, and later on he remarried and had a new family, and he's still in contact with my kids, but all the child rearing was left up to me. I didn't have any help from my parents whatsoever. I have no siblings, so I did it on my own, and I did a lot. So now I have finally reached an age where I am doing exactly what I love doing. I have watched YouTube for 4.5 years and I've been mesmerized by YouTube, and I have finally got the guts to become a YouTuber myself. Maybe you can't call me a fully pledged YouTuber as yet because I'm new, but I have done it. I have done what I love doing. I'm following my passion. I'm doing healing and intuitive work and space clearing and spirit guide drawing, studying and ghost busting, and I've studied so many. I'm a Reiki master. I've studied so much in healing therapies, and now I feel like I have finally arrived. I run my clinic, and I also at the moment we're focusing on real estate, space clearing in real estate and business, so that their businesses can run smoother, so that their businesses can make a much better profit, and so that their properties can be sold much faster and with ease, because I'm doing space clearing and feng shui, and we're at the process of beginning. It's not new. The journey is not new for me, but focusing directly with my marketing consultant. And I've written several books, not yet published, but someday. Where there's life, there's hope. Anyway, I am digressing. I have digressed. But what I'm saying to you is, for God's sake, find your passion and follow it. When you have found what you love doing, you will be the best at it, because it's not work, it's pure love. You work from a heart space, from a space of love. So once you have found your passion, stick to it. The money will follow. Don't focus on how much this is just my advice, the same advice that I give to my children. It's only my own personal opinion. You might have other opinions, of course, and not everybody is as lucky as I am to follow my passion. But from my perspective, once I have found my true calling in life, my passion, all the puzzle pieces have fallen into place. So I have digressed. My introductions are becoming longer and longer. So let's get on with the story. That's what we're here for. So let me tell you how I was switched at birth. As I said, my mother was giving birth in labor with me for 7 days. So had I been born on my due date, I would have been born a Capricorn on the 17th of January. But because she was in labor for an entire week, I was born on the 24th of January, making me an Aquarius. A very different species to a Capricorn. But in some cases, in some parts, there are quite a few similarities. So anyway, back in the day of pre-dinosaur era, they didn't have epidurals. They weren't able to induce a woman who wasn't dilating properly, but who was still having contractions. They didn't have episiotomies. They didn't do C-sections, and they certainly didn't have any forceps. So although we have it tough, and the younger generation, obviously before me, my children are grown, I had very tough time during labor. I certainly wasn't in labor for 7 days, but that's another story for another day. Back in those days, her water obviously didn't break. Eventually they had to pop it to break it, but she was having contractions, but she wasn't dilating. So my father was anxiously waiting. My father, who was a very well-educated man, knew absolutely nothing about how babies come out. He knew where they came out from. And also, obviously, back in the day, men were not allowed to be with husbands, I would say, or partners were not allowed to be in the birthing room, in the labor room with their partners. So my father was, waiting outside and waiting and waiting. My father wanted a son. He was crazy about having a son. He placed an order for a son, and a son he expected to have. So back in Russia or Ukraine, I'll just call it Russia, because back then the whole USSR was called Russia. So back in the day, midwives used to get bribes for a job well done, for all kinds of things. In actual fact, everybody was bribed for something or other. If you wanted anything, to get anywhere, to get an education, you had to bribe your university professors. You had to bribe shop assistants to sell you nourishing food. And the same went for, midwives who were ordered a son. And my father had no idea that babies come crowning, head first. Come out head first. Unless it's a breech baby, then it's a different story. I was not a breech. So he thought, bottom first. He knew nothing better. Nobody educated him on child labor, on childbirth. He didn't know any better. So every so often, the wife, and he told the midwives, make sure I am having a son. You gotta promise me that my wife is giving birth to a boy, to my son. So the midwife would come out every hour on the hour, and he would say, is it a boy? And she would say, yes, it's a boy. And he would give her a bribe for gratitude, as a sense of gratitude. And this kept going on and on and on for days, because my mother was in labor for a whole week. And he kept bribing her. And, we come from a wealthy background, back from my home birth, from my place of birth. And my father could certainly afford to bribe the midwives who kept coming out, because it was really worthwhile for them to keep reassuring my father that he was having a son. My mother was giving birth to a boy. And then, as time went by and I was finally born, the midwife from very far away, from all the way from up the stairs, said, Leon, congratulations, your wife just gave birth. It's a girl. My father went berserk. He said, you promised me a son. Somebody switched my son for this daughter. And it wasn't so unusual back in the day for children to get switched. It's not like today that they have plastic wristbands. Before they had little cotton ones that would just not tie them in a knot. So they could have easily switched the little tags on the wrist. And he ordered the son, so clearly he could not have possibly had a daughter, because that was not imaginable to him. He couldn't fathom the idea. Besides, he kept being promised that he will be having a boy. So my father, if you know from my previous stories, and if you don't, I'll tell you briefly, my father was a policeman, a high-ranking policeman who had 100 people work for him. He instantly rang up the police station. I'm laughing because I know what's coming next. Instantly rang the police station, ordered for all his 100 men and women to rush immediately to the hospital where my poor mommy, who was in labor for a week, he wasn't worried about my mom's well-being. He forgot that my mom existed. He rushed them to the hospital to start searching for his son, because he was adamant. He was sure, 100% sure, that I was switched. His son was somewhere. Somebody else must have wanted a son who was a higher ranking general or whatever, and they probably got a daughter, and they switched his son to their daughter. They switched the children, the babies around. So this poor hospital has 100 uniformed policemen and women searching this hospital from back and forth, up and down, running around the stairs, 3 stories up and down, 3 levels, running around into every room where the women had just given birth, where everyone was, was exhausted. The doctors, the nurses, the midwives, the poor women who have just gone through labor. They searched all the rooms. They were running around, rushing around. My father was yelling at them to find his son. The doctor came out and he said, Mr. Leon, excuse me, I need a sip of coffee for this. Your wife gave birth to a healthy daughter. You need to stop the madness. We can't work like this. There are uniformed policemen and women running around through our entire hospital. We understand that you have your own power, personal power, but you need to accept the fact that you had a daughter. My father was in a state of shock. He was as white as linen. He was almost collapsing from passing out. And he finally accepted his lot in life. His poor lot in life, that he got a daughter. A huge disappointment to him, mind you. And you know what else? My father used to love telling stories. He was a great communicator, and he kept telling me this story over and over again, as if it was pleasant for me to know that I was being rejected from the minute that I was born. In any case, several days went by. I was all wrapped up, a little baby, and my father and my grandmother were standing there waiting for my mom to come out to take her home with a brand new infant, me. And as they were waiting, there was this baby that was screaming its lungs out. It was so loud. It was just screaming crazy, like mad. And my father goes, some poor schmuck. He's got some loud baby out there. And that baby was me. They brought this screaming loud baby to him. On top of being a girl, I was very noisy as well, which was totally unacceptable to my father. And, I wasn't switched at birth because I'm a carbon copy of a mixture of both of my parents. So he was rest assured that I certainly was his flesh and blood. So he got what he deserved, I think. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this story, this little snippet of my life. Please comment below. Tell me if you have any funny stories to share, or if you feel as rejected as I did for all of my childhood. Because I wasn't wanted from day one, from before I even arrived to this world. And my father continued in a very similar fashion throughout his entire life. But I digress. That's another story altogether. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Cosmic kisses to everyone. Till next time. Bye for now.